Yeah, I like how that folds up out of the way quickly if you wanted to get that guard out of the way. That should help out and keep things a little safer than the saws that I've had in the past. Oh, hey guys, welcome back to the Hands-On channel. Come on in. I wanted to show you guys kind of a show and tell Saturday, I guess we'll call it, but for about 2 or 3 weeks now, I've been desperately searching for a new table saw, or really searching for answers. I had an old Craftsman, let's see, I can't even see the model number. It was a 10-inch 2.5 Craftsman table saw. It's been featured here on the channel before. I did a video series about how to basically get the most out of a cheap table saw. I can't remember what I called it, but anyway, 3 or 4 weeks ago now, I went to rip some boards, which is mainly what I use my table saw for, or this old one that I had. And I went to rip up some boards and the motor just started humming and wasn't spinning. So I'm like, oh man, the thing's jammed up or something. So I tried to get it unjammed by rotating the blade. The blade would not move. It was seized up. So that led me down a path of how can I repair this thing? So I started looking into that, and it was going to cost me about 40 or 50 bucks to buy the parts just to maybe fix the thing. And I was like, you know, I'm not sure it's worth putting 50 bucks into this thing because, you know, these older contractor saws, they just weren't very good. You couldn't make them very precise. There were a lot of different things, a lot of limitations that I kept running into with that contractor or that job site type, portable type table saw. It was an early version of a job site saw. And so anyway, I decided, I was like, you know, I think I'm just going to buy a new table saw because I'm the kind of guy that uses a table saw quite a bit, and it's kind of the centerpiece of your woodworking shop. So I wanted to get a good one. And so I started looking around at the used market, and I'm like, you know, everything that I'm seeing is just totally covered with rust. Like someone left a cast iron tabletop outside and it got rained on or something, and they never cared for it, not once. Now, some of that rust can be cleaned off, but I mean, many of the saws that I was seeing were totally encrusted with rust, and they still wanted premium prices for them. So I'm like, what in the heck is going on here? And I kept looking. I had it narrowed down to a couple of different saws. I was looking at a Delta, an older Delta Model 10. No, it's not a Model 10. Model 10 was before that. I was looking at some of those, the old Rockwell and Delta saws and the old Sears Craftsman saws back when they were high quality saws, right? And again, I just couldn't find one that was in good enough condition that I could justify paying the asking price for it. So I kept looking. And then all of a sudden, I see this saw, like a cabinet type saw, cabinet maker saw made by Steel City. And I can't remember the model number, but that led me down a whole rabbit hole. And for about 3 or 4 days there, I was just researching my brains out, trying to find out about this Steel City saw. Well, it turns out Steel City went out of business back in like 2015. So my fear was if I bought that saw and any major component broke, then I would be basically, it would be relegated as a boat anchor. I wouldn't be able to do anything with it to fix it. And I was really worried about that. So I was like, you know, I think I'm just going to play it slow. If someone else beats me to the saw, so be it. They wanted 300 bucks, or no, 350 bucks. And I talked them down to 300 before I even went over there. So I could have went and got a Steel City saw, which was probably better than this one, for around $300. It was a smoking deal, but there were some parts missing and stuff. Like it didn't have the riving knife. That Steel City actually had a riving knife, and it didn't have the guard. It didn't have, something else was missing. I don't remember if it was the miter gauge. It might have been that. Now you can buy all that stuff extra, but when I was looking for a riving knife for a Steel City saw, I couldn't find it. So I'm just like, look, I don't even own this saw yet, and I'm just shopping for parts, and I can't find these parts. Could I have made one that would have worked? Yeah, I probably could have, but I wanted the factory part. I didn't want another project. I've got a shop full of projects, and I'm trying to actually weed through a lot of these. So the reason you guys haven't heard a lot from me here lately is I've been out here in this big shop, pretty much running my wood stove nonstop, and cleaning, organizing. Ever since I got my new shelf system built back here, I've been organizing, getting rid of stuff that I'm never going to use, stuff like that, right? And trying to make room for what I knew was coming, a big saw. And this thing is a big saw. And I'll tell you, I was getting pretty discouraged because I kept seeing these other saws like the Delta 10-inch contractor saw. I was really considering that saw, but the lever here was broken off of the fence. So I was like, man, I don't want to buy something, again, that's a project. I want something that's ready to use, or maybe make some minor adjustments and it'll be ready to use, right? So I kept looking, and I was very patient. It was very hard because I've got several projects around that require a table saw. So I was real particular though in what I wanted. I really wanted a full cast iron top with cast iron wing extensions and everything. Almost all of the new table saws, even brand new ones, some of these high dollar ones like the Delta and even a brand new rigid saw or whatever saw you choose, they come with stamped steel wings. And I was just like, man, that seems kind of lame. You know, I didn't want stamped steel wings. I wanted full cast iron. So again, I kept looking, and I was looking on Marketplace and Craigslist, although Craigslist is now a shadow of its former self because they started charging people to do listings on Craigslist where it used to be free. And so a lot of people that are selling things have now migrated over to Facebook. So if you don't have a Facebook account, it's pretty tough because you can't get a lot of these deals or whatever. So if nothing else, I don't recommend Facebook because it's not a good place for your mind. But just for the sale, you know, the marketplace they call it. If you want to buy things used on the used market, marketplace is a great way to get a hold of things like that in your local area. So fast forward to a few days ago, and I had to drive quite a ways. It was about a 45-minute drive for me to go get this thing and go look at it and everything. The guy was originally overpriced on it, and the night before I bought it, he listed it like an hour or two earlier, and he listed it for $400. And I was like, man, $400 on a saw that's 6 to 10 years old. It's sold new for, you know, like $600. I usually like to pay half price. That's kind of my, when I'm selling something or when I'm buying something, I go look at what the new price is, and then I try to offer about half price. So I went over there, looked at it, and the guy could probably tell that I was hot for it. And I didn't mean to do that, but I don't have a very good poker face. So, I mean, I was playing with the knobs and running it. And when it came on, I couldn't believe how quiet it was. I'm super impressed with the Herculift system that's on here, and I'll show you that in a minute. But anyway, yeah, I couldn't hide that. My face is emotional or emotive, and I show those emotions, and I can't hide them. So I wouldn't be very good at poker. So anyway, I offered him $300. I was like, look, man, I've done a lot of research on this thing. I kind of know about what it's worth. To me, it's worth $300. That's half price of brand new list price when you bought it. And he ho-hummed around a little bit, and he came back with $350. And he knew he had me on the hook at that point. So I ho-hummed about it a little bit, and I tried to get, I was hoping he'd come on down a little more, and he didn't. So I finally was just like, you know what? $350, it's worth it for me to just be done with this project. And I could see that this thing was very well kept. And that, you know, honestly, that's worth $50. Me not having to be out here scrubbing on the thing and using all this different stuff to get the cast iron in the condition that I expect it to be in, that's worth something, you know. So I didn't mind paying $350 for it, even though I think it's probably only worth $300, or at least to me. But my search is now over. So I'm going to pull you in here and show you some of its features. This is the TS3650. Let me make sure I'm telling you the right number here. Yes, TS3650 by Rigid. It's a 1.5 horsepower contractor type table saw. And you know, the names of these table saws, it's a bit confusing and it leaves a lot to be desired. Like, for example, they call these new saws that are on wheels, that are like real, you know, the real small portable saws, they call those job site saws. They call these contractor saws. And the reason they call these contractor saws is because it has the motor that sticks out of the back. And in the old days, the contractors would take the motor off and load these things up in their pickup trucks and take them to the job sites and use them on the job sites. Now they use job site saws because they're so much smaller and easier to use. And arguably, if all you're doing is framing work or something like that, rough work, a job site saw is probably plenty for you. But I'm planning on building cabinets and just all sorts of stuff, furniture and other things like that. I just love building things. I really get into it, building drawers and building other things like that where you need a precise instrument like this, a precise tool. So let's take a look at this cast iron tabletop and the fence here. I really like the fence system. I think it's certainly better than anything I've ever had on my old Craftsman saw or anything like that. But you've got these little magnifiers down here. Hopefully you can see that with a very fine line in the center of that. And that helps you get everything calibrated and lined up just the way you want. And you can actually move these and adjust these. This saw has adjustments everywhere. If you want to adjust the blade, if you want to adjust the fence, if you want to adjust the position of the blade from like say 90 degrees to 45 degrees, you can do all of that stuff relatively easily. If your blade is like this, if it's canted a little bit, you can actually get in there in the trunnion and adjust that. It has a lever back there. Now you have to loosen some bolts up and stuff, but there's a lever back there where you can actually adjust that. These are things that I could not do to my old Craftsman saw, and in a way, I'm really kind of glad now in hindsight that the damn thing broke down, because I didn't realize how much of a piece of crap it was. I didn't realize that it was a toy compared to this thing. I mean, this is a Cadillac right here. I love it. So some people complained about this little plastic lever right here, but I think if you're careful with it, you shouldn't have any problems. You know, obviously you're not going to be using your fence for a hammer or banging down on that plastic handle. And also, I think it would be safer just for storage not to leave it like that. Go ahead and clamp it down. That way that thing's not sticking out. You know, when you're wheeling it around or whatever, you could accidentally hit something and break that off pretty easily. It is just a piece of plastic after all. I think you can actually get replacement parts if you did break that, but you know, just something you'd want to be cautious about. On this fence, it has T-track rails all the way in it. I've never had a fence like that or a saw like that where it has T-track fences in it like that. That's going to be awesome for putting extra clamps on, or when I want to put like an auxiliary board on or a sacrificial board. It's going to make it a lot easier for me to do that. And people claim you can go over and get bolts for a toilet bowl because they're shaped the right way. They have that flat head on the side or whatever, and that'll slide in there. And I think quarter 20 bolts, I'll have to check that, but I believe quarter 20 bolts will fit inside of here as well, just standard hex head quarter 20s. Another thing I love about this table saw compared to my old one, I could put a clamp right here, right through the cast iron, and clamp that down. I'm really, really excited about that. Another thing that's really cool that I've never had before is this Safety Sally stuff here. Now, I know you guys that know me, you know I'm not real into the Safety Sally stuff, but when it comes to keeping my fingers, you know, I'd rather err on the side of caution, and I really like that at least this comes with the, what do they call this, a splitter. Now, this is the generation before they went to the riving knife. The guy I bought this from, he said he bought it about 6 years ago, and he never used this thing. It's all brand new. But it's got these little pawls here, so as you push your board through, it locks in, and right now it's loose because I only have one bolt in it. I just wanted you guys to see it. And one thing, it didn't come with the bolts because he said he never used it and he lost the bolts somewhere along the way. But the idea is you can put this down, and if you're cutting like sheet goods and things like that, like plywood or anything like that, that tends to bite and kick back, this will stop that from happening. And also, it probably helps with the dust collection if you're running a dust collector, having this little shield over the top of this, because the way the dust collection works on this thing, it gets drawn down through that hole there. So it would probably be a little cleaner if you could use this thing. So I'm really excited to try that out. I haven't tried it yet, I'll be honest, because I only have the one bolt in it right now. So make sure we don't knock it off of there. I've just got it on there loose so you guys could see it. But yeah, on both sides you have these places, these pockets where you could put clamps. I really dig that. My old saw, one thing I absolutely hated about my old Craftsman saw, and this picture right here actually shows it quite well. On my old saw, the space from the front edge to where the blade started was not very much. It was only like that much space. And so constantly you'd be trying to find the right position to get it flat on the table. And also the blade and the insert here was square, and it was all the way at the back. And I couldn't find any way to safely make a zero clearance insert, which would have helped with my woodworking. If you know anything about woodworking, you put one of these zero clearance inserts in there, and that keeps the wood from chipping out as much on the back side. So I worked around that on my old saw by using a sled when I could for like my cross cuts and stuff like that, but I couldn't work around it on my rips because a lot of time I was ripping a full length, like 8 foot or 10 foot 2x4, and it was just a nightmare. It didn't work out very well. And another thing I didn't like at all about my old saw was that I would set the fence, and you had to measure it every single time. I would measure up, measure, and set the fence and lock it. And then I'd run 2 or 3 boards in and check it again, and guess what? The fence would be out of square. It was just a garbage fence, and there was really nothing I could do about it. The saw the old one wasn't worth putting any money into and fixing it up, in my opinion. That's why I did what I did. So let's get you over here and we'll show you one of the other things that really impresses me about this machine here. They did it right. And you know, honestly, if it came down to it, one of these versus the brand new, whatever the newest one is, 4550 or whatever, 4560, whatever the newest series is, I would choose this one. And the reason why is I like the motor that hangs out of the back. Even though it takes up more room in your shop, it's easier to service. Those types of motors like these table saws run on, you could go down to like Granger or some other supply place like that, or order it online, a brand new motor if you needed one. So yeah, one of the things that really impressed me and sold me on this saw was this Herculift, as they call it. Now right now, it's down on the feet and it's very level. I didn't even have to level this thing. The guy had it pretty level. The blade is a little bit out of whack there. I'm going to have to adjust that and get it perfect and get the fence perfect, but the level of the tabletop is perfect. But if you want to move a big saw like this around, obviously trying to do that with a dolly is going to be really hard because there's no good place to grab onto this thing without breaking something. So they put this Herculift system on here, and I dig it, man. Check this out. You just push down and it's easy, effortless. Now I can wheel this saw all around anywhere I want. I really, really like that. That's a labor saver, back saver. Now, obviously, you're not going to be going across any gravel roads or really, really rough parking lots or grass or anything like that. It's made to roll on finished concrete floors, which is what I have here in this shop. It has a little lock right here. I already have it loose. So we're just going to, oh man, that's buttery smooth. It just comes up so much nicer than my old Craftsman. See, my old Craftsman had the dual function knob right here on the front. So basically it had like a gear on the back side of it, and if you wanted to tilt the blade, you had to use that thing. So that's all the way up, and we'll loosen our tilt so we can tilt the blade over. There's a lever over here on this side that locks in your tilt, so you want to make sure and loosen that off. And now we can tilt the blade, and the entire guard assembly, everything tilts along with it. I'm not going to go all the way, but I just wanted to show you how easy and buttery smooth that is. And it also seems like it's going to be a lot easier to dial it in to whatever. Maybe I need 40 degrees or 32 degrees or something like that. I think it's going to be a lot easier because there's a really nice scale here. You can adjust this little red pointer, so it's very adjustable, and you can calibrate this thing, and I really dig that sort of stuff. One thing I don't really dig is this power button being over here on the right side. Let me back up and show you what I'm talking about. Now, I am right-handed, and it would seem to make sense that you would reach over here with your right hand and flip it off, but I found myself in situations before where I needed to shut the blade off in a hurry, and I think it makes more sense to me to have it here on the left side, which is the shorter side. You can see the fence goes way out there, and I think I'm going to put it over here on the left side, mainly because it kind of gets in the way when you're adjusting your angle. And the T-track here that's on the front that holds the fence, it actually has a T slot in it that goes all the way. So it's really easy if you want to move it over to the left side. I think I'm going to do that because, let me step over there and I'll show you kind of what I'm talking about. So if I'm cutting right here, most of the time my right hand is going to be in, in this area right here occupied. And it's more likely for me to be able to reach over here with my left hand or bump it with my leg. I don't know if you guys are going to be able to see that from that angle, but I should be able to reach up there with my left leg and bump it because it has this type of power switch. Hopefully I didn't get that out of frame. So it's on, it would be on now if I had it plugged in, and I could just reach up there with my left leg and bump that off for safety. And I think that's just fantastic. My other one, it had a normal, like a light type switch down here. It was heavier duty. It was a machine switch, but it was just an on and off, and you had to like feel around for it. And there were a few times where I was in some pretty scary situations and I needed to shut the saw down immediately, and I couldn't do it. You know, my wife actually came up with a really good idea. She was like, why don't they have them to where they're on the, like down here, where they're, like a foot pedal type of a switch? And maybe you could do that sort of thing, but I'm not going to reinvent the wheel. I'm just going to move this thing over here. It'll be out of my way more, and I'll be able to angle my blade and use that a lot easier for different kinds of angled cuts. So guys, I'm really excited about this. I could go on and on and on about it because I researched my brains out before I bought this thing. And I don't see very many videos on YouTube about this. There's a couple, but no one really goes over the features like I've just done and talks about it, in depth. So I don't know why that is. I don't know if this saw wasn't as popular as some of the other ones. There's a whole bunch of stuff about the 45 series, the newer ones. But yeah, I just dig that, man. As I get older, my eyes aren't as good. So having that little bit of a magnifier right there just makes all the difference. And it's so good. It slides so good. People say online, they're like, yeah, this rigid fence is not as good as the Delta T2 square or whatever. But I'm telling you what, it's adjustable, man. I mean, if it's out of whack here, you can take these bolts loose right here and adjust it just perfect. So I'm really excited about it. One of the things I'm looking forward to is adding an extension right here. It'll probably be either plywood or particle board or something like that, MDF, whatever they call it, with some sort of veneer over the top of it. And I may put a router in there. I'm very interested in installing the router in the same thing. That way I don't have to have a separate router station. I can just have it all right here on my table saw. Hit me up in the comments if you've got any experience with the rigid TS3650. Am I right? Is this older saw actually better than anything you can buy now because it has cast iron extension wings on both sides? I think it is, and I'm telling you guys, I got lots of building ideas in mind that I've been waiting on because I didn't really have a good table saw, and then my crappy table saw crapped out. So I've got a whole cabin to build, and if nothing else, all of the interior cabinets of our new homestead we're working on here in the future. So anyway, look forward to all that, guys. Let me know if you want to see anything or know anything about this saw that I didn't cover in the video. I'm sure I missed something. Oh, I almost missed the biggest thing. I gotta let you guys hear this thing run right quick. I don't know if it'll translate on camera the same way that it does in real life, but this thing is amazingly quiet compared to what I've been dealing with. So my old Craftsman, it sounded like a jet engine firing up whenever you turned the thing on, and it was really loud enough that you needed to wear hearing protection all the time with it. This thing, listen to this. Now I don't know if the camera picked that up. It does dim my lights a little bit whenever it starts up. So it would probably work a lot better if I had this on a dedicated 15 or 20 amp circuit. But I mean, that is just quiet. Listen to that. I don't want to get too close, but listen to that. It's amazing. So as much as I love the old classic American tools, like the really old Craftsmans and Rocklers and Deltas and stuff like that, Homecraft, all these other saws that are from the 50s and 60s, I didn't want to get into a big restoration project, and the size of the tabletop here is much greater than any of those older style contract homeowner saws. So I'm really excited about this. Can't wait to make some projects and run miles and miles of board feet through this saw. And just let me know if you got any tips for me. I'm not a master woodworker. I'm learning, just like a lot of you guys are. So if you got any tips or anything, accessories that I just gotta have for this thing, let me know down in the comments. What do you think? 350 bucks and about 3 weeks of my time searching and doing research and going through all the forums online to find out and make sure that I'm getting actually a good saw. Anyway, I appreciate you guys tuning in, and I just wanted to take a break from all the doom and gloom and politics and everything that's going on. My mind needs that once in a while, and just to concentrate on things that I have in my control, like things that go on here in my shop. I can't control what's going on in the country right now, but I can certainly control this saw and other things that are going on here in my shop. So anyhow, appreciate you guys tuning in, stopping by, checking out the new tool. Let me know what you think down in the comments. And until then, we'll see you next time.